All right, everyone, we are at the top of the hour and we are excited to get started. Thank you so much to everyone that has joined us today. I would like to introduce you guys to our speaker, who is Seventh Dimension CEO, Joshua Holloway.
Hey everybody, I'm going to be trying to turn on my camera, but it may not allow me with this new Zoom webinar features. So instead of getting to see my happy, shiny little face, we're going to go ahead and just have these slides up for today. Thank you, Taylor, for going ahead and introducing me. My name is Joshua Holloway. I'm the CEO for Seventh Dimension, and today we're going to be talking about how AI is accelerating phishing attacks and how they're now more looking towards attacking the financials rather than ransomware. So we're going to go over kind of three things you can avoid, you and your team can avoid to not make these mistakes and hopefully not get caught up in some of the new attacks that we're seeing. For a little bit of housekeeping, go ahead, open up that chat window. Let's see if everybody's there and alive. Go ahead and announce yourselves. Just want to make sure it's all working because as of right now, my camera is not working, so let's make sure nothing else falters. All right, so during this whole entire thing, go ahead and drop any questions in there. We'll probably answer those near the end, but let's go ahead and get started. So what we're seeing is a new trend out there where people are using AI bots like ChatGPT, and I'm also seeing insurance companies asking a lot of questions regarding support phishing and how we're combating that. So we kind of came up with a couple of things that we could go over and share with our audience and share with our clients what they could be doing to hopefully mitigate when there's a phishing attack. Because if we would have been talking about this prior to 2023, most of the time we tell people to look for spelling mistakes, grammatical errors. Well, with the release of ChatGPT, that's changed drastically. And now people who don't necessarily have power over the English language now have a very intelligent bot that can write all of their phishing attempts and very well written phishing attempts to get people more confused or more willing to click on those links. So here's the three things CEOs can do to help your team avoiding falling victim. Let's take it away. So as of right now, hacking is a huge business maker. It's a $1 trillion industry. It's actually a lot more than that overall. What we're seeing is a huge rise in cost, but back in 2019 is when it hit that milestone. So let's take a look at kind of what $1 trillion looks like overall to put that into perspective. If I was to hold $10,000, it'd be about the size of a pizza box, maybe even smaller. It'd be a brick. But $1 million is the size of a pizza box. Now, 100 million is a pallet of those pizza boxes. $1 billion are 10 of those pallets. So let's go ahead and see what $1 trillion looks like. Now, in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see that person. That's 1 trillion. And that's what cyber terrorism costed us back in 2019. They're estimating in 2025 that we will be at about 10.5 trillion. I happen to think that that estimation is really low. I happen to think that that's going to be a lot higher now, especially with the aid of ChatGPT. And the reason why I'm also saying that'll be a lot higher is we're currently in 2023, and we're already at 8.5 trillion costs to all businesses annually overall. So we're really close, and we got about 2 more years to go, but I think we'll skyrocket past that. So as it grows, this is what $10.5 trillion looks like. That's what's estimated to cost businesses, insurance companies a year when we hit that mark. That is a lot of money, and we should be doing a lot of things to protect not only our businesses, our clients, and doing what we can to mitigate that, because this isn't 10.5 trillion going in the pocket of good people who are looking just to live whatever dream it is that they've come up with. These are threat actors. These are people stealing information, harming businesses, shutting them down. Now, the other crazy thing that you have to think about with this is that 10.5 trillion will actually make cybercrime the third largest economic engine out there in the world. Hacking is a huge business. I know I talk about it all the time. I talk to clients about it all the time. And we talk about how overall this is getting out of hand. So with cyber being a big business, I want you to think about, so every year in Las Vegas, we have a Black Hat conference. That's where everybody comes in, and it's all the hackers willing to show their faces. And just at last year's alone, there was 370 exhibitors who had cyber software. That's huge. That's a huge game where people are trying to come in, they're trying to protect businesses, but at the same time, these weren't all white hackers, these black hat softwares as well. So the business is growing and thriving and getting bigger. So I kind of wanted to put this into perspective, how we're seeing the industry of hacking grow and how they're using softwares, how they're using new platforms to strengthen up their business. So overall, your IT companies are selling kind of a layered defense, right? We put in antivirus, we put in softwares for threat monitoring, like anti-hacker software, MDRs, EDRs. These are all acronyms that typically get thrown around. The other softwares we put in is application fencing. But I want you to kind of see what it looks like when an IT person is looking at your business or your assets, right? You have your data, you have your applications that you use every day, you have the computers that you provide, the network that they use to communicate on, the firewall that protects it all, and then you have the human element. Then you have the asset, which is your core business overall. Now, how do you get around all of these layers when your IT guys have actually done a very good job of putting up all these perimeters and all these fences overall? And I want you to stop and think about the easiest ways to get onto a computer system. Now, we know about antivirus. We know about all these softwares that our IT companies provide and install to protect you overall. But stop and think for a second, how would you get around that? You would trick an employee, very easily said. And the way that they're doing is that they're doing it through these phishing campaigns, or they're doing it through phishing for financial information. So I'm pretty sure everybody at this point in their life is very well aware of this scheme. This is that Nigerian prince that's asking for money, but in return, they promise a lot more, right? It's too good to be true. But you would be amazed that this scam today, even though it's been around since I want to say early 90s, when it was still in mail form or just getting started and then moved to email form, this still makes about $750,000 known dollars a year. It's 2023. But everybody who's currently on this call, I know you would never fall for that at all, because hopefully most of you guys get a chance to chat with me and I get to talk about what it is you should be looking for when you get messages like that. But with that being said, there's still somebody out there. So back in 2019, it was 703K, but 1 in 5 employees will still click a phishing link today. They see a lot of requests to buy gift cards, promising that if you buy these gift cards, you'll pay the bill, or if you don't buy these gift cards, something bad is going to happen. And that's how they excite the brain to turn on that fight or flight trigger mechanism, that if you don't act, and you don't act now, you're going to be caught up in something that you probably should have never been caught up on because you didn't even know it existed. So they're creating this sense of urgency, or you feel like they have made you feel that you have broken some kind of line. So overall, in the bottom line, these methods are typically effective because it tricks the brain and it tricks the the desire to trust. We want to trust others, so we don't necessarily look at why it is that this person is asking for this sense of urgency. We just want to help. We just want to act, or we're being threatened. So that's that fight or flight. And these methods are super successful. So even though our tools keep getting better and everything that we're deploying, anti-hacker, anti-phishing, anti-everything, there's other tools that these threat actors are finding that are also getting better, that help them seem more humanistic, or it is a human actually speaking. It also helps the threat actors who are utilizing these tools to sound like anybody else, but it's actually being used from very simple information that's being found on the internet. Tools are sites like LinkedIn, Facebook, other sites like that. They gather this information and they can create these messages. Now, there's new mail systems out there that stop phishing. We deploy an anti-phishing system that has anti-spam, anti-phishing, but the way the phishing works is it's looking for trends. It's looking for repetitive information that would make it look as if it's kind of, I hate to use the term spammy, but spammy, where they're asking for information. But if the message is written very well, very clear, and very plain, it's hard to detect what the phishing is. And that's why these engines, they work, but they're still able to get around them. So what are you going to do as a hacker? You're going to develop new ways, right? You're going to improve the way that you're writing the messages. You're going to gather more information. So one of the biggest one is the callback phishing. This one is calling back for, you have an invoice that's unpaid. It's for X amount of dollars. We need payment now. But it's no longer anybody writing these messages. It's actually a product like ChatGPT helping them to write the messages. And if anybody has never had an opportunity to play with that system, I actually spent an hour and a half talking to it about choosing a specific rock song. And we held a conversation that entire time about what kind of rock song I was looking for. And as we proceeded throughout the conversation, the bot actually became friendlier to the point to where it was just I was chatting with somebody at this point. And that was an hour and a half in. And then I started to play with it and trick it and try and do other things. But it just always had an answer for me. So they're using this tool to have more refined letters, more refined email messages. And then they're bypassing all of the security tools that we have in place because these messages look very legit. And the other way that they're making these look very legit is they're altering the domains that they're coming from. So if somebody was to pretend to be me and our domain is 7thdi.com, what they might do is they might go and buy 7thbi.com instead of ours, which is di, or 7th D1 or DL, something that looks very similar and easy written type that we see in our messages. Easy to trick the mind's eye by overlooking it, but it's not me talking to a client or somebody saying that we have an open invoice. It's somebody else pretending. So this is where it starts to get a little bit difficult, and you have to be very diligent to make sure that you are seeing these messages and then you're questioning, do I normally do business with this person or this email? Is this email address legit? And then checking. And if you're unsure, what we're asking companies to do this day and age is actually to develop a new policy outside of any of the IT systems that allow for you to double check. I'm looking into a policy change. I know that my company demands that I go back to stored information that I have that's not in this email message. I reach out to my counterpart at that company and ask them, did you send me this invoice? And if so, what was the dollar amount that you sent on that? Or some other kind of verification or check. Or the biggest one we're seeing right now is, hey, we've been hacked. we're no longer accepting checks, or we're no longer accepting ACH at this location. The bank has shut down our bank accounts. We need you to reroute the funds to this location. That should be the world's biggest flag, and you should stop everything you're doing right there, because at the end of the day, that extra 5 or 10 minutes that you sat back and thought about that message versus reacting to that message may save tens of thousands of dollars or upwards of hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on the size of your business. So callback phishing is when they create this urgency to call back, where you actually call them, get on the phone. They'll pretend to be maybe a different type of bill collector, maybe a larger agency where you don't have a direct counterpart that you typically work with. In this instance, never rely on the phone number that's inside the mail message. Go back to any other mailings or any other web-based information that you can go and look up yourself, either going directly to the URL of the website that you know that you do business with them, or Google the phone number, but never dial the phone number in the mail message, because what's going to happen is you're going to get on with somebody. You're going to be talking to them. They're going to ask you a couple of questions. They may even be fishing for more information so that they can keep this issue going even longer, gather a little bit more information, maybe get it to the point that they can get more information to get a larger invoice dollar amount or anything like that. And as they're asking the questions, they may offer up the good old link that, hey, I can help you make that payment, or I can help you with your system. Let me send you a link. Then once you send that link, they're going to connect onto your computer, and then they're going to have full access. And they're typically, when everything else has failed, they're going to offer this. So remember, that callback phishing is when they send you an email. They start to chat with you. They may even offer a link then to get a remote session or somehow to get you to pay. Never trust the links in the email messages. Never trust the phone numbers in the email messages. Now, man, I hate to say this, but at the end of the day, second guess the person who's emailing you that message asking for money. But I'm saying that so that you take that 5 to 10 minutes and really kind of think about the urgency that they're creating, the money that they're asking for, the business that is it the business that you do business with, so that we don't have to keep funding this. And hopefully that 10.5 trillion goes down rather than just continues to climb. So remember, if they're calling back, if it's a callback, hey, call us back. We want to help you, invoice, click this link, pay us this money. Never let them get connected to your computer. One of the most horrible things we've ever seen, or the computers that we work on, is when somebody has clicked that link, their computer gets locked up, all the information has been either exported out, or the worst thing to ever hear is when your screen goes blank and you question it and they say, oh, well, that's a part of our remote software. Screen goes blank when we take control. No, they just don't want you to see what you're doing. So hopefully everything I'm saying here, yes, it probably sounds repetitive. Yes, it probably sounds like you've heard it before, but we have to nail these things home, because now they're using AI to write these emails that sound more legitimate. So we can see these emails. Sometimes we'll add a tag. This email originated from outside your organization. That helps people. We're currently working on a new way of tagging anybody who does financial conversations within our mail systems, that they're getting whitelisted, and there will be an additional message at the top that this person is somebody you typically do financial business with. So if somebody does attempt the email false phishing, you guys would be able to see that right off the top. But when you're looking at messages like this, you can start to see, like, did I sign up for a service like this? Do I have to activate this? What's going on here? Do I want to open up that attached PDF file, which PDF files, picture files, well, executable files, they can all have embedded code. Even Excel files can have embedded code. And if you don't have a tool like application fencing or zero trust, when you activate those attachments, they can activate malicious code in the background to take over the system in a way that you don't know they've taken over the system. You don't know that they're sitting there watching. So you got to be mindful for these items that you open up or you take over. And if you notice throughout this message, they're creating a sense of urgency. Activated and paid in 24 hours. Give us your bank account. Give us this information. They're trying to push you to an invoice because they want to incite that fight or flight situation. Gone are the days. I mean, there's always going to be malware. There's always going to be ransomware. But what's happening is the insurance companies are now starting to say, we're not going to pay the ransom. The FBI is now stating that they're not going to recommend paying the ransom. So what they've started doing, or what the hackers have started doing, because the ransom is not being paid out any longer, they got a little bit smarter and they decided to hack the human and go after invoices. The other way that they're doing it is blackmail. Once again, they follow the same chain. They started with an email, a call maybe, they speak with somebody, and then they try and get on somebody's computer. Sometimes they don't even do that. So remember, you got the callback phishings, the call to respond or to act immediately. The letters are looking more legit, and we're actually going to pull up a couple of letters here pretty soon and show you what those look like. And then I want you to sit back, because I want you to think, was this written by a human or was this written by AI? And I'm not going to tell you which one it is until you've had an opportunity to take a look at them. One of the other things I hope you're doing is training your employees. And if you're not training your employees to spot this information, please come and talk to me about it. It's super important. We have training capabilities. Your IT providers or IT department should have access to trainings so that employees are trained. The other caveat to this is insurance providers are now requiring that you provide training and anti-cyber training or cyber training to the employees for basic policies, for how to spot phishing, how to not click the links, all the fun stuff that I keep pounding into all of these webinars every time we have them. You want to train the employee to be careful. So as we go out, obviously we've talked about this. The subject line, action required, right? That immediately plays to the mind, I have to do something. Then when you open up the message, I'm going to look at the overall email address, not just the name, because there's no legal recourse or ramification for the name that's put in the email address. They can put whatever they want there. The second half, which is the actual email address, does that look legitimate? And we've now seen a couple where it looks legitimate on the inbound because you can spoof that, but when you hit reply, it changes the address. And it may change it by one character. So always be mindful for that. How are they addressing you? How are they calling you by name? Are they calling you by sir or madam? Value customer? Is it very blank? Then it is the call to action, the call to pay us immediately, the call to click on that link, click this URL. At the end of all of this, you have the attachment if they have attached a copy of the invoice. At the end of all of this, it's here to excite the fight or flight. I have to jump in, I have to pay. What's going on? That's when we say walk away, take 5 minutes, and then come back and really look over the email message. We've also suggested that IT gets involved. So when you kick on that policy that states that when I'm requested to make a payment, I have to notify another person. I have to double check the validity of this information. And then we may or may not send funds. I've seen where one company does a double fund send where they will send $1 or $25 to the account. They will call and confirm that the money has been sent and it went to the right location based off of information they have previously stored, not from the email message. And then once that's been confirmed, the dollar amount's been confirmed, then they'll send the full invoice. I understand that this is a lot of extra hops or a lot of extra work, but doing these couple of extra hops is way better than trying to explain to your boss that you just sent $50,000 to the wrong account. So overall, give you the opportunity to take a look at all of the information that we highlighted in here, the illegitimate, unfamiliar email address, a sense of urgency, the generic greeting, salutation. any grammar mistakes before using the ChatGPT, any suspicious links, and the attachments. So let's talk about those trickier letters. What if the attacker no longer makes grammatical errors? What if they no longer make spelling mistakes? This is where it gets a little bit more trickier. Now, if they're a master at English, or they have the ability to pass the bar exam, because as of right now, we now have AI bots that are considered attorneys and they're conducting court cases. What if all of this can now happen today with the click of a button? So phishing is a form of fraud, which an attacker masquerades any type of entity in email or other forms of communication, right? So that think about phishing or spear phishing, right? They're casting out either a net or a specific attack. Now the AI writes this letter, and it does it a little bit better because all you have to do is give it a couple of prompts. You click on ChatGPT, you say, write me a professional letter, and I'm asking to be paid immediately X amount of dollars with X company. As we click OK, look at this message and read it. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it sounds pretty legit and pretty nice. I have a congratulations, which doesn't lend to much information. So I'm going to click and open the message. Now I'm going to go through this message, and as I go through it, I did get a promotion. Yeah, I feel great about it. Oh, this is so awesome. My employees have provided me a link to an Amazon card. I'm going to click on that immediately. So that one's pretty nice. Next message. Okay, congratulations for my promotion. As you go through this message, it talks about Ford Motor Company. I do work there. Yeah, that was a huge milestone. This is awesome. And once again, they're going to congratulate me with my achievement. You know what? Joe's a great guy. The crazy thing about this, as you go through these two messages, is both of these messages were written by an AI system, and it just took a couple of prompts. The first one that you see is a little bit more generic, right? It's still speaking very highly, it's very nice. They've heard about my promotion. They want me to click this link because they've provided me a gift. I'm going to immediately click on that link because it looks like Amazon, and I have a card. With a little bit of Google searching on the person I'm trying to attack through their LinkedIn, through their Facebooks, because all of this data is searchable, I can then narrow it down and make it feel more comfortable. Like it is Joe speaking to me, and the message is a little bit more smaller, but it's a little bit more direct. Great promotion at Ford Motor Company. Here's your Amazon gift card. Click here. It took less than 5 minutes just to create the first message, a couple minutes to do a little bit of searching, and then create the next message. So remember, information is ammunition. What we're putting out on all of our social media can be used against us. So this is where these threat actors can just spend a little bit of time figuring out who their targets are, gathering that information, putting it into a system that has an expert grasp of the English language, and generate very nice messages. I was messing with ChatGPT earlier today before this, and one of the things that I was able to do was to give it a couple of prompts and just ask for it to write email subject lines that had like eye-catching phrases. Then I could change my prompt and say, from an expert's opinion, write a subject line asking for somebody to act now on some information. It's very easy this day and age, now that we have access to these types of tools, to improve the phishing game. And I want people to really kind of learn from this and think about don't acting immediately, training your employees, and always question, especially any sums of money to be transferred. And if we can build policies within our businesses with the help of IT, with the help of other departments, to say we stop. I mean, if anybody was a kid in the 80s, I think they remember the stop, drop, and roll. We were taught in school, right? I thought I was going to catch on fire more often because I was being trained to stop, drop, and roll as a small child to put out these fires. So it's kind of the same mindset, right? Stop, drop what you're doing, and kind of go through this information and see if this is legit. So a lot of us are asking how our information is out there. I feel like Facebook was getting hacked every other month. LinkedIn's been hacked, I want to say at least twice. A recent one, which is MailChimp, that one's owned by Intuit. Intuit's the manufacturer of QuickBooks. This information is exposed. And this information is what these people are using to either find targets, communicate with targets, and then hopefully get them to give us information. They're going to know where you work. They're going to have your birthday information. They're going to know your interests from all of your searching, from all of your Facebook posts and where you go. And they're going to know your habits. And then they can take this information with their newfound employee and put this in the AI information. And then they're going to get back how they can better speak to you, how they could grab your interests. This makes phishing become an even popular tool because now non-English speakers are able to better write these messages. One of the biggest shifts that we saw during COVID pandemic was that the cartels shifted the way that they were making their money. It wasn't just about moving narcotics. It turned into an enterprise going after cyber and going after people's information and stealing their identities. And this is just kind of one of the tools that they started using to better attack. Chat systems with AI have been released since 2014. Microsoft really messed up back in 2015, where they created a chat AI bot and then they put it on Twitter, and then it really turned into a horrible beast. It's actually happened several times, but I don't. If anybody wants to talk about how bad that was, feel free to reach out to me. So remember the callback phishing. Remember the trickier letters. Remember how they're trying to bypass the tools to get to the human element. Your IT has done a great job of all of the technology that they can push out to systems to protect them. Now we have to worry about that human element. So we need to talk about those policies and how we're going to better stop this from happening. So if anybody's kind of curious of how that spam filter works, it's looking for patterns, recognition of patterns, right? It's looking for word patterns, anything that it can discern as being spammy, right? I know that there's times when anybody sends a mass mailer or a mass survey, it can be flagged as spam, and that's because it sees patterns. Well, with Chat GPT and AI tools, the patterns go away because the message is universally different every single time. So the content no longer looks the same. And then that means every phishing email is now specific to the user, and they may use other found information to make it feel more realistic, more centric to the users themselves, bypassing spam, bypassing the phishing tools. It's become personalized, it's become detailed, and it's unremarkably human. There's no patterns to detect. There's no detection of the phishing scam. And it just keeps improving. And then they go after getting that user to let them through. Now, it doesn't mean that you should go and turn off your anti-phishing engine. It doesn't mean you should go and turn off your spam. I'm pretty sure car manufacturers they're not going to remove seatbelts just because they put in airbags. These are all things that help with a broader protection, because people are still using the old ways as well as the new ways. It's the mousetrap theory, right? You build a better mousetrap, you build a better mouse, and then you just have to keep improving. So remember, 1 in 5 employees let attackers in. Imagine with the improvement or the use of AI, how many more can get in? And is it going to become 0.5 and 5? With training, hopefully it goes the opposite direction. 2 or 3 or 4 and 5 no longer let those people in. It's the statistic would get better with training, but AI is going to get better, and we have to determine what these things are. Once again, kind of wanted to show everybody the business landscape from a technological point of view, the different parameters. So you have the human element. That's what's being attacked the most right now, because everything else, the perimeter, the network, the endpoint, that has been beefed up. So they want to get around that. So keep this in mind. Our outside new parameter, which allows for these threat hackers to jump in towards the assets or the data, is the human. We need to train the human. We need to work with the human to better the technology and the IT side of things. Now you're probably asking about multi-factor. To finish up, with the multi-factor, yes, you have it turned on. That helps protect you. But remember, they're attacking the human. They're trying to jump over that. So multi-factor is good for direct access, but when you attack the human, that's when it gets more difficult. That's what they're going after now. Yes, I know you have antivirus. We could talk all day about antivirus and all these different things. It's still a tool, just like an airbag, just like a seatbelt, just like ABS brakes. It's still a tool to help protect your systems. And always the computer person. I love this one because, yeah, you may have an IT guy or an IT person. They're still going to try and jump over to them, and they're still going to try and get to the employee. So what can you do? Train your users. Yes, I think I've nailed that one home pretty quick. So train your users, train your users, train your users. Be cautious of all the emails that create fear or urgency. Take 5 minutes. Don't respond. And you don't have to respond directly. Go about around that message and go directly to who they're pretending to be and double check. Only use the phone numbers that you have stored. The vendor's information that you have stored, nothing in that mail message. And then never, ever, ever allow anybody other than your IT provider to connect to your computer. Even if it's a software vendor that you think you do business with, it would be better just to double check with your IT. I've seen a hack that has done that utilizing another software vendor that got hacked, and then they jumped in and they let them on. So you just want to be cautious when allowing anybody access to your system. And always, 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 I think I nailed this one. Every webinar, stop clicking the links in the email message. I may send you a message with a link in it, but now what we're starting to do is show the whole entire link. If you right click on it, you can actually analyze the link and make sure it doesn't change, and you can see that information. We're trying to be a little bit more broad in showing that info so that people are a little bit more comfortable with the information that we share, so that nobody feels like obviously they're getting tricked. Please share all this information with your team, or if you'd like us to come in and chat with them, I think it'd be great. I love having these conversations and hopefully help a person from clicking the link or getting caught up. So what do you guys want to do next? So we're going to be opening this up to questions, but before you go, anybody who is kind of stuck, or where they're like, where can I get started? Obviously reach out to us. We'll help you out. We do a lot of different scans. Or if you're just curious of how you're doing, reach out to us. We're happy to do a scan at an executive level of reporting. And what we do, one of the promises that we make to our clients is we actually have our business analyzed by a third party. I don't get to control the reports. I just get to read the reports that they're given to me. And we use them to analyze a lot of our customers as well as ourselves, because we practice what you preach, right? You want to build that confidence. These are the things that we should be doing. So right now, that package is about $4,900 a month, or excuse me, a scan. We buy 10 at a time. I think right now it actually might be 2 left, but right for this, we have 3 left. So right now we have 3 of them left. If anybody is super curious for having an executive level cyber threat ran, we'd come in, we'll scan. We don't have to have admin passwords. We pretend to be the humans that are using the computers. We run attacks against the systems, and then we report back at an executive level of what's going on. So if anybody's interested, obviously feel free to reach out to me and we can chat about this. So if anybody has any questions, so let's see if we can get you in there and adding questions. So chat has been enabled. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and let's put those in and let's see if we can help anybody out.
Yeah, so Josh, we did have a question come in. Is Seventh Dimension using the tools on a company-wide basis to help thwart phishing?
Yeah, a lot of these tools that I spoke about today, we typically deploy with our non-legacy customers. We have some customers that still prefer the old model of IT, but we constantly talk to them about utilizing these platforms and these systems to help protect them. If anybody wants to kind of review or go over it or talk about how we have them currently deployed, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always available. But yeah, a majority of our clients are already on a lot of these new platforms and these new cybersecurities.
And as a follow-up to that, do we need to add any specific software to our individual laptops to help thwart that phishing?
No, overall, that's a good question. Actually, it should not be an individual system base. It should actually be your overall email platform, G Suite, Office 365. If anybody's using anything else other than those, I know as of last year, insurance companies are no longer providing cyber liability policies to anybody who has an Exchange server in-house. That means that you have Exchange on your local servers, your IT guy is taking care of those. They will no longer write a policy for that. They want to see people on those 2 platforms I mentioned before.
And one last final question we received. I've been directed to a website that looks correct, but was not. How can we be sure of websites? HP is a common one.
The easy answer for that one would be a quick Google search will get you there. Before you click on the link for the URL, you can analyze it. You mentioned HP, right? It's hp.com. That one would be very easy to detect that it's slightly off. But if it's a little bit longer, what you want to look for is flipping letters. So the human mind doesn't need every letter to be in the exact place that it is for their brain to guess what the word is because they've seen it before. That's where you have to kind of slow down and analyze. I joke around about being one of the world's worst spellers, and it's plagued me all my life. And I always strive to be a better speller. So for me, it's really easy for me to second guess if that's the correct spelling for a URL or for a web page that I'm going to. But if you just take a couple of minutes before you click enter, really analyze it. Like I was saying earlier, like 7thBI.com would become 7thBI or 7B1 or something like that. So just slightly off or slightly varied. The one most common things that I'm seeing is ones and L's or I's or flipping N and M, because obviously they look very similar, or R, N, and M, any one of those combinations of letters, we are seeing them flipping. The other one that's most commonly dropped off, we're seeing is the letter S. So anytime that there is a plural, they'll drop the S and our brains will look right past it. And that's what you want to be mindful for. The other thing is in the email address, like accounts receivable or account receivables. So just kind of flipping letters around is a good way that they're using to trick people.
Any more questions?
Any other questions? Go ahead and post them. We'll take a look at them and get back to you. I know we're going to be finishing up pretty quick. I spoke a little longer than normal. We'll be posting the presentation after the recording is redubbed, and I know a lot of people wanted to join today and they were unable to. So this video will be made available, and just want to let everybody know that that will be probably in the next 24 hours. And if you want the slide deck, go ahead and reach out to me personally, and we can chat about it. Everybody, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for allowing for me to go over by several minutes. I really appreciate everybody joining today. Thank you so much.